If you are a recreational tennis player and often feel lost on the court whenever you play doubles with your friends, chances are you haven't fully understood some of the key concepts that make doubles different from singles or concepts that are unique to doubles altogether. So, if that sounds like you, I invite you to stay with me throughout this lesson because I'm going to introduce you to some of the most important fundamental concepts and strategies for doubles tennis. But first, if we haven't met yet, my name is Thiago and this is Next Level Tennis. Welcome to the channel. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our new content I release every week. By subscribing, you're also helping the channel continue to grow and reach more tennis players around the world. Alright, let's get started. The first concept I want to introduce is related to the server's positioning. Many players who mainly play singles become used to serving from a position close to the center mark. The reason is simple. In singles, they are solely responsible for covering the court after their opponent's return. However, doubles is a different game. There's absolutely nothing wrong with serving from the same position you use in singles, but when you play doubles, several factors change the equation. First, you now have a partner at the net who is applying pressure and limiting your opponent's return options, especially against first serves. Second, the doubles court is wider than the singles because the additional alley space. Because of these factors, experimenting with a more wide serving position can be a very effective strategy. When serving doubles, the down-the-line return is often more your partner's responsibility to cover, while the cross-court return directed toward the doubles alley becomes a higher priority for the server to handle. Another major advantage of serving from a wider position is that it allows you to create even more angle on your serve. You can stretch your opponent farther off the court and open more space for the next shot. That's exactly what happens in this point played by American professional J.J. Wolf. By starting from a wider serving position, he's able to hit an even more effective wide serve and immediately gain control of the point. Following the same principle, we can also see the American player serving from a position much closer to the center mark in order to use the I formation and create a better opportunity for his partner at the net. By serving from this position and hitting a slice serve down the tee, he forces the returner into a more predictable return pattern, allowing his net player to become much more aggressive and effective. This is a great example of how doubles positioning can be adjusted strategically to support a specific formation and maximize the pressure applied on the returning team. Now, when we talk about the returner's positioning in doubles, we generally see a pattern that is very similar to what players use in singles. Players tend to position themselves farther behind the baseline when returning first serves, which are usually faster and more aggressive. On second serves, however, they often move forward, sometimes even stepping inside the court, as they look to take control of the point right from the return. One significant difference between simples and doubles return strategies, though, is the preferred direction of the return. In singles, players often use a deep return through the middle of the court against first serves in order to neutralize the server and reduce angles. In doubles, however, the most effective neutralizing return is usually a deep cross-court return. And the reason is quite simple. If the returner directs the ball through the middle of the court, the opposing net player has a very clear opportunity to poach and immediately put the returning team under pressure. By playing deep cross-court instead, the returner keeps the ball farther away from the net player, creates a safer margin over the net, and makes it much more difficult for the opposing team to attack the return. That's why in doubles, the deep cross-court return is often the smartest and most effective option for neutralizing a strong serve and starting the point on more even terms. Now, we've arrived at what I believe is the most important part of today's lesson. We're going to talk about where most amateur doubles teams lose points and, more importantly, about the most critical role in doubles tennis, the net player. But before we continue, I'd like to introduce you to something else that's all about quality, comfort, and style: the Next Level Tennis Apparel Collection. If you want to look great and feel comfortable both on and off the court, these products were made for you, from one tennis player to another. Be sure to check them out and grab yours today. Now, let's get back to our lesson and focus on the role of the net player in doubles. One of the most common mistakes amateur players make when positioning themselves at the net is standing too close to the doubles alley and placing too much emphasis on covering the sideline. The problem is that, during the most rallies, the majority of shots travel through the central portion of the court and the middle window of the net. When you overprotect the alley, you leave the highest percentage target wide open for your opponents. As a result, you apply less pressure, make their shot selection easier, and miss opportunities to force errors. A great net player understands that their primary job is not to guard the alley at all costs. Their main responsibility is to take away the most likely targets, close down the middle of the court, and constantly pressure the opposing team into hitting more difficult shots. The more court presence you create in the middle, the more uncomfortable your opponents become, and that's where doubles matches are often won. However, one thing every net player should consider when establishing their starting position is the situation their team is in. For example, when your partner is hitting a first serve, it's generally a good idea for you to position yourself a little closer to the net. In this scenario, the returner is the player under pressure and in a more defensive situation, which naturally creates more opportunities for you to get involved and be aggressive at the net. On the other hand, if your opponents are serving a first serve, your team is the one starting the point in a defensive situation. As a result, the net player on your team should typically position themselves a little farther back, allowing more time to react and defend against aggressive shots. There's also a more extreme situation that occasionally comes up in doubles. Let's say your partners is struggling to get the return back in play and the opposing net player is having a field day, picking off volleys and putting constant pressure on your team. In that case, one effective adjustment is to have both players on the returning team start from the baseline. By placing both players back, you increase the distance between yourself and the opposing net player, giving your team more reaction time and a better chance of neutralizing the attack, staying in the rally, and eventually working your way back into the point. Remember, good doubles players don't just stick to one formation. They adjust their positioning based on the situation and choose the setup that gives them the best chance of winning the point. If you enjoyed today's lesson, please take a moment to hit the like button and share this video with your doubles partner so you can both step on the court better prepared for your next match. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss any of the new content I release every week. And now that you've learned the fundamentals of doubles strategy, you won't want to miss the part 2 of this doubles series. In our next episode, I'll show you more advanced doubles concepts, formations, and tactical patterns that can help you and your partner gain a real advantage over your opponents and win more matches. Until then, keep learning, keep improving, and keep watching Next Level Tennis. I'm Thiago, and this is Next Level Tennis, tennis that actually works.